Going live in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Boom.
Boom. What's up, Triton?
What's up, Cheddar? Chad with a C. All right.
We should practice our Bert and Ernie voices. What's up, Triton?
What's up, Chad with a C?
Whatever.
Wow,
that's really small.
I'm not going to say it.
Wow, that's really unimpressive.
You can't trick me.
No.
Okay. All right. So since we last synced up,
Sorry. Yes.
Sorry. Yes.
Quite the feedback.
I didn't have it muted, and I went to the browser to view it. This is how I view your screen. So.
Okay. So since we last synced up, we left off with this Vue CLI. So there was a build targets step that was kind of an alternative to the basic documentation for packaging up a single Vue component. And as you remember, these docs were only useful if you had like one component that you wanted to put out on NPM. We got to the bottom and realized this isn't scalable for a library, at least not with these configs. So we left off with looking at the
Can you
Vue.
blow that up like 2 more notches?
Yeah. It's weird that Chrome makes you zoom in per tab.
You can change it browser wide, I think. It's usually per domain.
Well, if you figure out how to do that and let me know, then.
Why don't you blow it up another 2 notches?
150?
I don't know. I want to see it.
Here, we're on 150% zoom. Is this good?
That's good. That's good. Yeah.
Okay. So we left off with the basic Vue NPM doc tutorial not being adequate enough for our needs. And we were looking at this Vue CLI option, which I gave a test run this morning. And it's just not the most comprehensive tutorial. So you have to kind of assume some of the configurations, but it does work. I just haven't fully figured out how to modify everything for my needs. So I then started doing some reading around online. I found this pretty useful freecodecamp.org tutorial that was published pretty recently. And it's just what we need. So he mentions this roll-up NPM module called Vue single file component, Vue SFC. And it pretty much does what you would expect, or what we were wanting to do. Once you NPM install, and then it gives you like a global command line command, you can do SFC init. And what that'll do, just those 2 commands, installing this globally and then running an init, what that'll do is give you a build folder, a dev folder, a dist folder, a source folder, and a couple config files. So
like project template?
Yeah, everything you see here was actually already here. I haven't added anything since running SFC init. I did add my components under the source, but we'll get to that in a second. So just looking at the architecture from running that that rollup module, the build folder is just your build config. And this is the same config that Vue Bootstrap uses in their NPM module. You notice you've got like the...
you need to blow this up. I can't read any of this.
I'm sorry. Isn't there a presentation mode in...
Is that what you did last time? You jumped into presentation mode?
It seemed to work.
Yeah, it blew it up a bunch, but...
WebStorm has presentation mode. I don't think VS Code does, but let's just do this. Boom. All right, that should be better. Okay, can you see?
Let me see. Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Cool. So yeah, again, we run the rollup NPM module that I just pointed out earlier, and the build folder just gives you the config that we were looking at for Vue Bootstrap. So we don't have to hand code this. We don't have to copy what they had. It has like a conditional build for all the different types of modules you could need. I haven't touched anything here. Once I did the NPM init, I was able to run this config without any additional work.
Leave it alone, man.
And then they give you a dev server.
An actual build out? You built the files and everything? Or?
Yeah, so like if we created a new folder and just ran the SFC init, this is everything we would get out of the box. Like all of this showed up in the folder. And next, so after the build config, which they gave us, we have a dev server. And this is also pretty easy to follow along, and it's ready to go without having to touch it. You will have to customize this. So you've got a server.js, which I don't touch, but then the server.view, serve.view, only if you want to preview your components in dev mode, it'll give you a local host to preview your library. You can import your library components here. So as you create new components and you want to render them into a dev preview mode, you would import them here. And we'll get to that in a second, like creating new components and viewing them and everything. But this is just a minimal dev Vue app. And then the dist folder gets generated when you run npm build. And then lastly, we have the source folder. So the source folder came with a lib components folder and then an entry.js. Again, I didn't touch this. This just kind of tells npm where to look for all the components.
Oh yeah, that was like our wrapper file, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it came with that. And basically, all you have to do after you run SFC init.
They did what we were doing. Object reason, they just went over all of them, added in there. So
yeah, I'm impressed with rollup and just this module in general. So yeah, after running SFC init, you had this lib components folder, and all you had to do to be npm ready was put a component in here. So they even gave you an index.js, and it gets updated by the developer when you add new components, and you can use whatever architecture you want. So you could just have vanilla Vue components in the lib components folder if you wanted to just use like a flatter architecture. or you can create a folder per component. Either way, you're just referencing your components here, and then rollup does the rest. So as long as this index.js file is up to date as you create your components, then rollup will reference this one file for your whole library.
Nice. It's a lot of time. I mean, we were going to have to build all that and figure it out, but I didn't really want to do that.
Yeah, I'm stoked. They give you a dev server. They give you the option to configure the build even further if you need to. And
it's a good setup for the actual development process, like developing it in here.
Exactly. Now, this is something that I wanted to maybe take notes on later because this part gets a little tricky. The package.json is now kind of a part of your dev workflow when you're trying to build an NPM module, obviously. This is something, so like right now I'm having to manually update the versions every time I want to publish a change. I want to automate that because it's easy to forget.
Yeah.
And what else? Oh, if you change the architecture, you might have to modify the files. What this section does is it essentially handpicks each final output that the consumer of your module will see. So if you wanted them to see, like in their node modules folder, you know how you don't touch these, but you can go look at what's in them. If you wanted the consumer of your node module to see different files, this is where you would specify those files. So out of the box, rollup assumes that you just want them to see the dist. And
see. That's the only thing, like export it, or?
That's the only, these are the only files that get uploaded to NPM.
Oh, when you do a publish?
Yeah. So like in my local architecture, I've got a dev folder, I've got a build folder, I've got some config files, but this property, if you run, you know, if someone else wanted to consume my module after I published and they run npm install, they're only going to see what I specify under this.
That's pretty cool. So they don't have to get all the extra crap that you have in there for development purposes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, but it's something important to remember, because if there is like a config file or whatever in your library, you got to remember to add it here. Otherwise, it won't be published in NPM and the end user won't have that config file. So it's something to keep in mind.
Did you figure out what SFC stands for?
Single file component. So in Vue JS syntax, you've got options in Vue to do.
Is that just what they call it? Because they have like the template, the script, and the style all in one single file?
Exactly.
I've never heard that term before.
Yeah. Vue does give you an option to not use single file component syntax. Like I don't even know how to do this off the top of my head, but you could have a separate CSS file that you imported. I guess maybe you would import it, you know, in JS, but most commonly in Vue, you're always going to have a single file component. Now, there are cases where, like in Bootstrap View, oops, I didn't want to do that. Let's just close this. Don't save. There are cases like in Bootstrap View where you're using functional components, and I haven't looked too much into this, but functional view components. I think this.
Seen that before.
I think this is an example of when you would go against the SFC architecture. I don't know for sure, but occasionally I'll see functional components where it's all JavaScript and the CSS is in a separate file. And let's see here if we can look at some syntax for a functional component. Bootstrap View is a good example. All of their, or most of their components are functional components. So this doesn't look anything like Vue.js code, but it compiles into correct Vue code. So they have like a render or something down here. Yeah.
Oh, like the classic Vue.extend.
So like you're actually in like string syntax specifying the element div and then giving it properties. It's really hard to read, but it's supposed to be very performant.
But this is what it gets built down to in the end anyway, though, right?
I think so. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't really dissected this.
Source file for this, and this is like the built down version?
No, this is
how they're writing it?
I believe so. I mean, if you look at the docs, they talk about like
wow, that's messed up.
Yeah, see, return create element h1. And then look, yeah, this is the same to a template. Like the template syntax that I had a minute ago, all this code right here is just for creating a div programmatically with some nested properties. It's really ugly, but again, I think the reasoning is that it's performant. I haven't looked into it too much to see how much of a difference it makes, but yeah. And something else I'm kind of curious about with the Vue Bootstrap, every one of their components has a complementary TypeScript file, so index.d.ts, and a JS file. And from what I can tell,
is it duplicate code?
Yeah.
No, it probably just adds types.
Well, so this is the TypeScript file for an alert component. And then if we go back, this is the same file in JS. I think.
Oh. And so they import it.
Let me go back
and do probably add TypeScript support for it, probably.
So TypeScript, export declare const alert plugin, and then JS, const alert plugin factory, TypeScript, export declare balert extends BV component to Smiths. Maybe they're slightly different. Maybe they have different roles, but it feels like they're almost the same file for two different, languages, JS and TS.
Yeah, they're probably one for each version. So if you're using TS, you get the other one. But it's the same component under the hood, but for like balert, it's saying there that it has dismiss, and it's a method that returns void. They probably use that for like type definitions and stuff.
Yeah, I guess we don't really care too much about that since we're not trying to support TypeScript right away. But some other things from their architecture that I did want to look into. Unit testing inside the component. So if we're just focusing on our simple card, which I renamed donate, I would love to add a unit test for the component. And then a README. So I would love to get better at documentation, and I think this is a great way to do so.
Yeah, you'll have to add documentation for each thing, but we haven't fully baked out even the first component yet. So
Right. And they kind of go overboard with like using some global documentation in each component.
that's weird.
But I would love to have like a README per component that at least documents the props that the component supports.
Yeah, you're gonna need that.
But
Probably like an example. So let's talk about why you changed it to donate card.
yeah, I don't have strong reasons for the naming. I right now I'm just trying to form some consistency with naming, and I thought Donate UI Kit was kind of a scalable name for the library that we're building.
This one already? Okay.
Yeah, so I guess, I don't know. I don't like the idea of namespacing everything with donate or prefixing everything with donate. Every component doesn't need it.
Shouldn't, yeah, because donate card is implying that it's got some donate action on the card, but if it doesn't, then don't include that on there. Because you're already in your namespace of the donate UI kit. You can just call it card.
I agree. But is card too generic? Like, do we want some uniqueness to it at all?
I don't know. What's it going to do? It's just a card component, right? I mean, it
Yeah.
doesn't have anything.
It accepts in an image and a donate button and a header title and a paragraph text in the card. So if we look into it, yeah, we've got.
I think card is fine. I mean, it's really just a card component. It doesn't have anything special specific to the donate kit, right?
Okay, let's call it a card.
Call it a card.
I'm sold. You'll have to forgive me. I normally code in WebStorm, so probably. So the props, image, title, description, and button text. That's good enough documentation for now.
That should be one word button text, right?
Yeah.
That's not how you wrote it in the docs.
Thanks. Oh.
And ideally, I think you should list like the types of, like a string, image, like URL, image URL, etc. Just so it's more. I mean, I guess you can get real in depth into it, but just even on a basic level.
Yeah. Okay. So. All right. I'd love to do like an NPM update just to show that the architecture and everything from what we discussed earlier is working end to end. So
can we put in Readme before we do that? At least just basic.
Oh, you mean like in the root directory?
Yeah, so it has something showing up.
Yeah, I meant to do that a second ago. Thanks for reminding me. Donate UI kit.
Even just like a 1-sentence description is fine. You know, it doesn't need to be a life story.
All right, we have a README in the root directory.
Link that one to the other README.
You can do that?
Yeah. So surround the text in brackets.
Brackets or parentheses?
Brackets. Nope.
Oh, curly brackets.
Nope. Regular bracket. No, that's a curly bracket.
No, it's not.
Okay, maybe I'm behind on time. But there, keep that one. Yeah, bracket.
There's a delay, isn't there?
I think so. You kept going back and forth.
Well, you kept saying no, that's not it.
You should know what brackets are.
I had it right the first time.
It looked like a curly brace to me because your cursor's right over it. I can't. So I saw like the top of the cursor.
Do you have your
sticking out
glasses
in
on?
the middle of it. No, your screen is not very. I mean, it's huge. It's not very easy to see.
Oh, okay.
It's fine. It's fine for like an overall level. Just like right there was hard to see the bracket. Okay, and then no space and parentheses, and then dot /, or and then the path to the other README. src/lib component /card /readme. It's not going to autocomplete for you though. I don't think. You like your READMEs all caps?
I don't know. I guess that's just what I thought was normal.
Yeah, they do all caps on theirs. I think it's just a tactic to make people read it, but I don't think it needs to be. But whatever. Yeah, so that should link to it when you're on GitHub viewing it.
Okay. Anything else we want to do before we publish it?
I wonder if it'll work in NPM. It might break there, but whatever. Rebuild. Did you make a script so it runs a build and publish?
No, I haven't gotten that far yet. Automation is definitely something on my to-do list.
Make one right now. Do you want to do it?
Well, hold on. Let me think through the steps I ran earlier. I've only published this with this architecture once, so
it should only be build, right? You did an NPM run build probably.
All right, so we got to update the version. That's the very first thing.
No, do 1.1. Actually, yeah, 2's fine. You changed the component name. Not like anyone's using it yet, but still.
Can you see what I'm typing?
Yeah, it's kind of small.
Update 1. I'm hoping to automate all of these steps with like a GitHub action. So the first thing we did was update the versioning. The next thing we want to do is just run a build. So npm run build will run all the build types. If you were only building for a very specific module type, then you could just do one of those individually.
Can you scroll to the right more? All those scripts are the same, though.
No, they're different formatted outputs.
Oh, okay. So you pass the format, it just does that one.
Right. So build SSR will just do the format for an SSR component. I think this is ES6. And then I think unpackage is like a web component, but don't quote me on that. Let's Google it.
Yeah, I think that could be the standard browser one. You can just look at the output that it gives it.
Okay. Yeah, I need to look into these further, but so under the dist, interesting. Yeah, so we have the SSR and ESM version and just a min version. But all right, let's just run npm build. Oh no.
Scroll up more.
Oh, we changed our card name. Okay.
Yeah.
So got to go back to our index under the lib.
Does this export them all onto? Oh yeah, you gotta update that one too. Does this put them all on one parent, like one global, like donate UIKit.card? Or can you pull them out? Did you try that yet?
Oh, I'll get to that in just a second, but yes, to answer your question. So, all right, let's try again. npm run build. Boom, it's working. All right. So it updated our dist. So update 2.0 version, and then npm run build, and then we want to do npm login, then npm.
I don't think you should need to log in again anymore. Once you're logged in once, it should be good on that computer.
Okay, we can try it. So npm publish.
Unless you've never logged in before, then we got a problem.
I had to log in earlier, so I don't know if it like resets.
It caches that
Once a day, or
yeah.
You think
No,
it?
not even once a day. It logs in until it caches it in like a local folder or something, I think.
Oh. All right, so this is a successful publish.
Success. Where's that npm link? / donate UI kit. Oh, it's there. Published a few seconds ago, and it's got a README. 404 if you try to link to that README. I wonder how you do it. in Tony. Yeah, I wonder how you make that compatible for GitHub. Maybe you just do a hard-coded link, but I mean that'll work in GitHub, but you don't link to the GitHub anywhere in this
Right.
project. So
okay, so one more quick step, and then we can consume it in a different project. But first, let me make sure I update the project on GitHub so that I'm keeping that in sync. What should we say? All right, let's see if our Donate UI kit is up to date. Yep, it's got, I wonder if the link works in GitHub. Boom, it does.
yeah, see, you probably have to hard code it though to like the blob master or something like that.
Yeah. Okay, so in the near future, I want to look into a GitHub action that will run all of these steps we just did on git push origin master. So anytime I merge into the master branch, an action or some kind of automation would run each of these steps, bump up the version, run the build. If I need to log in to NPM under my account, do so, and then publish to my account. But for now, we can just work on our components and do those steps manually. All right, so let's look at consuming it. So I think
let's try it out.
Instant prototyping. All right, got to bump up the.
Blow it up even more, man. Go bigger.
Go big or go home.
I'm pretty sure that's copyrighted and you can't say that.
Don't you know there's been so much copyright infringement on Twitch?
That was my hometown high school's, like, I remember their football t-shirt said that on the back of them.
Go big or go home.
Go home.
You know who you don't want to steal from, even like in like kind-hearted attempts. I've heard Disney has like more attorneys than they do creative directors. And if you steal anything from like a Disney movie or anything close to the logo,
yeah,
they don't care who you are. They'll crush you in court.
Yeah, really strict with the Mickey stuff. Like if you have anything that looks like similar to Mickey, you can get some cease and desist. Probably pretty easy.
Okay, so let's just make a dir component.
Make a dir
library.
Don't you just use the Vue app tool or no?
Yeah, that's what I was about to do. So
I thought it was a directory for you.
Yeah, it does. It does. I have a bad habit of naming my directory manually and then running view create dot.
Yeah. Oh, view create dot. I was gonna say that makes sense. That's not terrible.
So we're just gonna do the defaults for a Vue 2 app. This is the command line interface that scaffolds a Vue project for us from scratch. And then we can import our library that's on NPM, and we should be able to just render it onto the boilerplate Vue app.
I'm watching along on my TV too, and it refreshes quicker than I see on like the Twitch app on my computer or Twitch browser.
All right, so let's open this in VS Code.
I'm gonna refill water, BRB. Don't forget to hydrate.
Got some water right here.
Hydrating's a big thing on Twitch. People will remind you. So off topic, I ordered a replacement HDMI capture card and it still doesn't work like I thought. So Streamyard's probably our best option right now without having to buy a bunch of gear.
All right, I like Streamyard.
I like it. I think it's pretty cool. And I think they're actively working on it, so hopefully new features will come down the line.
Yeah, I was looking the other day at, it's scary opening up tabs on Stream because you never know what like personal information you're giving away. But
Went for it on your Amazon.
yeah. Oh, I thought I added a cool camera, but yeah, I was looking the other day. So one of the most highly recommended mics for streamers starting out, like beginner to mid-level, Blue Yeti.
Yeah.
And then a green screen.
Blue Yeti once, and I didn't think it was that great. I don't know if I didn't get the settings right on it or what, but I thought it sounded not really much better than just me talking into my laptop.
Really?
Yeah. But a lot of people do have them. But there's a lot of good cheap ones out there. Like way cheaper. The Yeti's like $200, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, 185. But
if we're not going to show video, do you need a video? camera and a green screen, or do you want to actually get that set up?
I was thinking it would be useful for if we do like the Adobe Animate characters.
Yeah, you would need it for that. Or, well, maybe not need it, but I wonder if it would help. It would probably help. I don't know.
So I think.
Webcam. Could you imagine just buying a webcam? It feels weird.
What do you mean?
I haven't bought a webcam in like 10 years.
Yeah, it was like something you did before MacBooks were
Remember
out.
when computers started coming with webcams built in, and it was like such a cool feature?
Yeah, that was back in the AOL days, man.
But now because webcam, they were about as good as the current webcams. These new ones though, these can like get legit.
You remember how grainy the footage used to be?
Yeah, it's still pretty grainy if it's in the dark. If you're not lit up well, look like a pro.
Yeah. So from what I was reading online, the Logitech C920 is like the most reliable, good quality entry level webcam. And if you adjust the lighting and do some configuration on the settings, then this is the best hardware that you can buy when you're first getting into streaming. It's $150. And again, so I watched a couple YouTube videos that showed how this compared against all the other top like webcams out there. Logitech also sells like a 4K webcam somewhere. I don't see it here, but some guy did like a side-by-side comparison of the C920 with the 4K one, and it's like the most expensive Logitech camera, the 4K one. And the comparison wasn't worth the money for the 4K one. It was like this one
No, well,
does.
it's gonna shrink it down to the bottom corner of the screen. Like it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think it was a C980 or whatever.
But I think that's still expensive. Most of the ones, a lot of streamers list their setup on their profile on Twitch, and I feel like most of the cams I've seen have been like $50 or less. But I could be wrong.
Really?
I mean, they're using Logitech's, but I think they're using an even like cheaper model. If they're using those. That one might be more expensive because it's got the microphone, but maybe the microphone's pretty good, but a lot of the times you got a separate microphone set up as well.
No, I think so. The C920 and 22 have 1080p cameras.
Slacker King says the C920 is $78 at B&H Photo. So Amazon must be price gouging right now because people are at
Probably.
home streaming themselves. Or no, wait, were you looking at the Pro? Is that a different model?
I don't know. I mean, yes, I was looking at the Pro. I don't know if it makes a difference.
Okay. He said the C9, Slacker King said C920. I wonder if that's a different model.
But yeah, 3 different reviews that I read online. They all suggested if you're starting out using the C920.
The Pro, you're going for the Pro model out the gate?
I don't see an alternative. There's the C922X and then the C920. Both are pros. There's not a non-pro on the Amazon page. But I don't know. I'm still a ways away from dropping money on this. I gotta get other stuff in order with like the content and everything. And I was wanting to look into like how much you can make someday streaming to see just rough estimates. Is it going to take me a year to pay off my gear if I drop $500 on gear? Yeah. Like I want to know the ROI, even if it's just ballpark numbers,
It's going to take a while, I would imagine, unless you've already got some audience somewhere to pitch it to, but you don't.
Yeah, I mean, I realize we're starting with nothing But if we could do this weekly and get, I don't know, 100 active viewers per session,
It's a lot.
Is it? I don't know estimates. Like,
I think so. Most of the ones that I've been watching are like probably 30 would be
okay.
average, and then like 50 would be pretty good. But I think that's even still a little ways in.
Do you think you could pay off a mic and webcam if you were streaming twice a week for a year?
Yeah, probably. I mean, if you're trying to collect money.
That's kind of the stuff I was curious about, just like how practical this would be.
I think you should look at it as more of a hobby, and then it will be a lot easier and less stressful.
That's true. Okay, let's jump back in.
Okay.
So, gonna save this for later. All right, we have our local auto-generated Vue app using the Vue CLI. And if we run yarn serve, all right, so we have our boilerplate app. Let's import our module.
Blow it up. I can't see, can't see the Vue logo.
All right.
You think it's going to work out of the box?
I already know that there's going to be one minor bug with importing, but yes, it'll render the component.
What kind of bug?
So again, I only went through this process once, and in my initial attempt, I noticed that I guess I should allow ESLint. What do you think?
What is? I can't read it.
Oh. So in my first attempt, it's this weird thing where like you have to import. We just renamed it card, right?
Yeah.
So it was something like donate UI kit slash, like it worked, but you had to import one of the files in the NPM module, which is not ideal.
Well, the benefit of that is it won't load the whole kit if you're only using that one component. That was kind of the feature that I think we wanted to add.
Right, but for developer experience, like you can't. People are used to just running this, right? Import card from library name, and they don't want to.
It doesn't allow it to do that?
What?
It doesn't allow it to do that?
No. So maybe it does. Let's just give it a try. All right, card. And then we'll render our card. Ah, fail.
You try to get autocomplete on a custom component?
I have it in WebStorm, man.
Why aren't you using WebStorm?
Because WebStorm is heavily project based, and I'm like spinning up quick throwaway folders right now to go through all this. Like, I'm just gonna delete all this and everything, and it's easier to, like, from the command line, just run code dot and open up the current folder in VS Code and then throw everything away later. WebStorm wants to create a workspace for all your projects and all that. So it's nice when you're developing day to day on one project, but not so nice for quick prototyping.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see if, I don't think this is going to work, but
You're not even going to wait to see if it builds correctly? Oh, there we go. Oh.
boom. Look at that.
See, it works. I was going to say if it didn't work, it should throw an error on compile. It should say that it cannot find that export or something. But so if you include the full path, what the difference is that then it won't. This loads the whole donate UI kit and then pulls out the card component. If you reference the full path, it just imports that card component. So once you have all those other components in there, this could be more excessive than you need unless you have tree shaking built in. I don't know if that's built into the Vue CLI these days.
Yeah, I don't know. It's something to look into.
Did you pass in props?
We can card image equals, what's the URL? Place kitten.
Yeah.
HTTPS.
Yep. I think.
Placekitten.com/250 by 250. Let's see if this works.
Default URL, isn't it? Oh, that's not the same size as we use.
It's a different kitten.
It's a different kitten. He sounded so excited. Look at that one. Isn't he cute? Oh, styles broke though.
Yeah. There's plenty to do with the
So you
component.
don't need to pass it in with the colons, only if you're two-way binding.
That's a good point. Actually,
when I did it, you made me write it with it, and I was like, really? But you don't need to. I think only if you use the binding, then it's going to look at it as JavaScript. If you don't, it's looking at it as a plain, like, HTML attribute. The only down thing about Place Kitten is once you get a URL, it gives you that same image every time.
yeah.
Which is, I think, supposed to be a feature, but I don't like it. I wonder if there's something you can put on the URL to like auto refresh. Place Kitten is like dead or something. I don't think they make it anymore, but
It's a good idea. It's easy to remember, and I could use it, when I'm needing to prototype and need a stock photo. Description.
delivered by.
I need to be doing the whole stream friendly live updates.
Split
Split screen, yeah.
So much on the screen. So
Button
much tapping.
Text, is it? Oh, so this is something interesting. The Vue style guide recommends that you don't use camel case for your props, but instead use dash. And what's weird is that the rules in Vue are very loosely enforced. So you can have a component like this, a prop where it's camel case, and it works without any errors or warnings. But then you can also have the same component with dash case, and it works the same.
React will do that too, and I stopped using the dashes because it's just a pain in the ass. When you go to, like, say you change a prop name in that component and you try to find all instances of it, you're not going to find that one and you're going to forget it. You have to remember to manually change it. So it's stupid to have to switch casing like that. Just use the same casing everywhere.
Right, but their style guide,
I don't care what their style guide says,
encourages this syntax.
I think they do that because they're trying to be as close to web components as possible. And web component spec probably says something like that.
I think you're right. All right, so
why they have you write your components in lowercase, like card, and with dashes. Like, I wouldn't normally do that in React. I would write it like the hello world, like you have there. I would match the casing because I like the differentiator between this is a regular HTML element and this is my custom HTML element.
Yeah.
Or my custom component. You know, I think visually that gives it the cue.
So it works. We have an end-to-end component that we can update, publish, and then a later project can import and begin using.
Look at that. Ship it.
So I guess now we just need to figure out what our priorities are, because there's plenty to do. So one step I wanted to look into is automating the NPM publish steps. You've suggested a couple times that we look into the tree shaking process so that we can make sure the whole library isn't being imported and you can still have minimal code here on the import. So we need to just make sure that's working as expected. And then obviously we've got other components. So a donate card, a progress bar, and I already have some styling for these, like some custom CSS ready to go. We just gotta begin building some of these components. A donation list would be like a auto-filtered top 10 list of, it would take in an array of objects with a donation amount and the name of the donation.
Yeah.
It would auto-filter those by most to least donations. So that's kind of a cool component that I think a lot of websites could use.
Actually specific to this kit, like something more custom than the card.
Yeah, still reusable and scalable, but also very, relative to the donation kit, like you said.
Yeah.
So that's a neat one. And then a couple ones that are going to be heavily used if this library is ever in a production project is currency. So if you're taking in donations, I can say from experience that it's chaos in UI code. Sometimes, like I see UIs dealing with strings for the currency. and then numbers, and sometimes it's mixed across different components. And then furthermore, if you're a global brand, the currency symbols and everything is different. So there has to be like a way that we can build. In fact, there is a way, and I've been meaning to standardize it, but build an input that just handles currency and is bulletproof.
You probably have like a component to display any kind of numeric value in a specific currency, and it might do converting for you or something. Or how are you using like a library to deal with currency right now? Or are you writing that all manually?
So in my company, we've been using currency JS, and I did a little looking into this, and it is a messy topic that you can really get lost in. So yeah, I didn't want to roll my own because it all depends on like if you're using hard numbers or strings or what.
So you were going to build something, a component with currency stuff in it. Would you need this as a dependency?
I don't know if I would need this specific one, but yes, I would need a currency dependency. I think there was like one or two others that were equally as popular. Maybe it was numeral. And yeah, money JS, accounting JS, and currency JS, I think are the big ones that cover every use case.
Accounting JS? Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about floating point math, right? So when you get into like having to deal with formatting numbers for different countries, it gets messy really fast. And
oh yeah, they've got format money.
But that being said, on like a looking at just a sample page here, the end user doesn't give a crap about what library gets used. They're going to just see.
They do though, because if it's a big ass library and they have to include it, and they're already using a different library, then they're doubling down on that code there.
Oh, you're right. You're right. Okay, so the developer consuming our library cares.
Yeah.
But the customer viewing your page is going to see everything naturally formatted in their currency. So it's going to look normal to them.
Yeah, we're talking about the developer though, because we're building something for the developer now.
Right. Yeah. So I don't know how much of this, if we're really getting nitpicky and trying to bulletproof our currency for a nonprofit across the whole UI, I don't know how much of this responsibility needs to be on the original inputs versus the outputs. I think that the formatting is going to be an output issue, but is there a best practice for like feeding in strings versus numbers? How do you want to, I guess my question, and not just to you, but my open-ended question here is like, what is the best way to store and capture currency in a database from like a donation so that we can later format it relative to a country?
Yeah, I'm wondering, how do you store it? Well, I don't know. I mean, it's more interacting with the library in the sense of that. Are they just going to be giving us a number Are we going to do any calculations for them, or are we just going to say, give us the text, you do all the stuff ahead of time? I mean, I think it would be best to start out with just saying, give me what you want me to show, and then not let the library handle anything out of the box. Make it their responsibility at first. And then as you use the library, you can see, okay, here's where places where I would prefer to just follow a standard and let them do the calculation for me, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, what decisions do you want to make for them or not?
Well, if we're building a library, we want to be bulletproof and support whatever they might throw at us. So
yeah, but you also don't want to over feature, like, you know, support everything that nobody has a request for. I personally hate like pulling in a library. It has too many features, you know. A lot of times I like writing my own custom code because I don't want to add a library that has 50 features when I only need one of them. And it's pretty basic, you know.
Yeah, I hear you. I just don't know if there were ever a case where you would want to import a library into your library. I would think that this would be it. So dealing with currency isn't really something I want to hand code. But I've never really tried. I haven't taken a deep dive into currency before, and I guess maybe the math or just the calculations of the numbers is
Yeah,
kind
I
of
don't know.
scary.
How do they do that? Do they look up the current conversion rate, or is there like a kind of like they're going off of somewhat current rates, but not up to the minute rate? And or I guess they would always store. They wouldn't need conversion rates, right? Because if it's listed as euros, that's just how you're going to see it. And if you want the feature of converting it to another currency, that's something that we leave the consumers, the library consumer, up to handling.
Yeah.
At that point, then it's just a string. And we don't have to even worry about it. Like that, they just hand us strings and we spit it out on the page. And if they need to do anything fancy, generally I would prefer, as the library writer, I would give them the option to do some kind of callbacks or something that would allow them to tie into like calculations and stuff. Because I don't want to bake in too much code assumptions in my code of how they're going to use it. If you're building it for your own company, you know exactly how you're going to use it. But in the terms of open source, you don't. I mean, you can make some opinions, but I guess we have no idea how people are going to use this yet. You're like the #1 customer for it.
Yeah, I mean, I can say that day to day, like working on fundraiser pages that I donate, our immediate engineering team inherited a lot of the original technical decisions, and we have a solid team now. But in the early days of the company, some contractors just kind of made the decisions in a silo, and so like this number here may use a string format with one library like accounting.js, and then this number up here may be an actual number data type that uses a different library. So it's a mess right now.
Yeah.
But when I posed the question to the team, our current engineering team, there wasn't like an obvious answer, like, oh, let's make all of our dollar amounts a number format, and then output a string so that like we're passing around numbers consistently. That's one way of looking at it. The other way was, let's pass around only strings. Let's make all of our dollar amounts just a string, and it's also output as a string. So there's no like obvious one or the other way to go.
Yeah.
Because there's pros and cons to both. So like if it's in a number format, then calculating stuff like the top donation or merging two numbers for a total or whatever, calculations are a lot easier, a lot more straightforward with numbers versus a string.
Yes, you will need numbers, right? So like for the progress bar component, your props would be like start value, end value, which would be your raised and your goal, and then current value you take in, and that's how you can calculate the percentage visually. But then those $ labels, those could be just plain text, like start label, end label, and they can write anything they want in there.
Yeah, it's true. But
The only work you're doing under the hood is calculating that progress bar width for them. The rest of it is just they're giving you data and you're spitting it out on the page. It's pretty basic, you know. It doesn't need to be like, I think it should be as simple and dumb as possible in the beginning. Always start that way because it's easy to add a bunch of features that you don't need and make it and the more complex it gets, the more you got to document, the more people are going to complain about how shitty your documentation is.
yeah, but I guess so if you were to have to make a app level decision in a production app and say all dollar amounts will be stored in the database as a number or a string,
Well, we're not storing that.
but the inputs for the donation. So like if I donate to,
Well, they would give us, I mean, we're basically showing a start number and an end number.
so like here you can donate a custom amount and you can put in like 55,000, whatever. So this is technically a component that I was going to include in our library. And while our library can support strings and numbers, like that's an obvious thing. We want to support both.
Can you blow that up more? It's hard to see.
So our library, in order to be developer friendly, we don't want to break down if they pass in a string, but we want to persuade them to be using one or the other, right? So I can't decide if there's more pros to capturing this value and passing it to the back end as a number or a string.
It should always be a number.
Even if you have decimals?
Yes. If you want to support decimals, you can drop the decimals, and just do it in whole values, and then know, like, it's stored in cents rather than dollars. That's why if it's US dollars, I usually store it in cents. So $25 would be a value of 2,500.
Inputs.
If you are dealing with other currencies, it could be an issue. But in terms of the library, all you really need to do is you could have a config option to say, like, what kind of precision do you want on there? Do you want it to be whole number? Do you want it to be to period, fixed to precision?
So formatted output should always be a string.
Well, it will be converted to a string. This is where your currency stuff kind of comes into play, because you have to give it a raw value for those charts, right?
Right.
But if they're displaying a currency value, I wonder if we can make it up to them to do it somehow, or if we just support currencies. We might be able to support currency decently easy with just raw numbers, right? And there might be a simple library for that where you don't do like a currency conversion per se, but it's just like, how would you display the value 1.00 in euros? I guess you could still say 1.00 euros. I don't know if you would. Do they have like cents in the euro? I don't think they do. I feel like America is one of the only ones that does. I don't know currencies that well.
Yeah, I don't know either. But
Money JS.
get that money.
Could have been a money library. It could have been anything.
All I know is when I first started down this road, I immediately was persuaded to use a library. I think this was the blog post that kind of convinced me I don't want to hand code all of these different edge cases. So
Yeah, that's what
there's
I
like,
think. But then you're automatically throwing in that dependency. And like I said, with the dependency, if they're using a different library already and you're using this one, then that's kind of a problem. But we could make it to say, like, which one do you want to use? You could make it configurable with some of the top ones if that's how people want to use it. But I would say you starting out, just whatever you want to pick, and then until someone feature requests, can you support this library.js? Then you can build it in. Unless you want to do it for the challenge.
no, I would rather just bake in a library and call it a day, because we're dealing.
Last one you can find.
Yeah, I would do thorough research on which one we decide to use. Like I'm not going to just loosely start bringing in a bunch of dependencies to our library. But I feel like if there was one place where we know we're going to want an external library in our library, it would be currency, because the core of our component library is nonprofit donations, right?
Yeah.
So all throughout most of our components, we're dealing with currency in some way. I feel like this would be something like, once we decided on one that was really lean, had the features we needed, no excess, it would be used in multiple areas of our component library, I think.
I mean, anything currency related, it would be our currency handler.
Right. That was the decision process I went through. I don't know that, I mean, as of now, I don't think I need any other third-party vendors, and I'm going to try to not have any others. But yeah, I don't know.
Well, that's a topic for when we get to the components. But I think it's worthwhile to go through those decisions on screen. Don't try to figure them out beforehand, because I think there's some valuable information in picking. Oh, look at that Notion magic in picking that. The decisions that go along the way, I think, are interesting and worth streaming.
Agreed. So do you want to use the time we have left to try and automate our NPM publishing, or what are you thinking? Do we want to jump into a component?
I think we could try to automate it. I think that'd be fun. I've got an idea of how we can do it.
Okay.
So I think you can make a little local script that dives into the package JSON and modifies it, modifies the version, bumps it. There might even be an NPM package to do that already, since we're on a roll with that. There's got to be. There's like packages for everything. My first thought is always to try to write it because I think that's fun, but there's probably an NPM package to modify your NPM version, which would make this super easy, and I think that's worth doing it in this case, unless you really want to write it from scratch.
I haven't played with GitHub Actions yet.
I'm
Have
not
you?
in that level yet. I'm thinking just locally. But because once you have that set up, then we can tie it up to a GitHub action or something probably. We're going to need that first anyway. Because the GitHub action, I mean, I don't know for sure, but it just allows you to run like build scripts and stuff, right? We're not going to like paste our own code in there. We want to have that script locally and then tell the GitHub action to run that script.
So based on this YAML file, when someone changes the version in package JSON to 1.2.3 and pushes a commit with the message release, the NPM publish action will create a new tag and publish the package to the NPM registry.
Okay. And that's not even with GitHub Actions? That just does it behind the scenes or what?
No, this is a GitHub action, but aren't GitHub Actions just YAML files?
Are they, is that it? They're baked in? You don't have to like enable it on the repo or something?
I don't know.
I don't know how they work.
Tell me how they work, Chad.
You tell me how they work. Well, that seems pretty easy enough then.
Seems dangerous though. Like it's gonna just run without my consent or something.
No, because you have to change it. You still have to do the manual though. You still have to manually change the version package and pushes a commit with the message, with that specific message. Then the action will automatically do it, the stuff for you. So there's still no interaction on your side, but the deployment is getting run. And I think that's even harder to remember than what we're currently doing. Because that's two steps now. You now have to change it and commit with a specific message.
I agree.
The benefit is it will tag the repo for you. You do want to tag every time you release so that you can look back at the state of the repo for each, if you're trying to debug something to see like when a bug was introduced. Can't read that. Can you blow it up?
Yes.
Enhance. Enhance. I gotta make a thing to do that, like show a little screen overlay that says enhance and it sparkles. Buddy, what is this?
I don't know if it's what we want. This is from NPM, so.
Oh, like a CI, they say fastest CI/CD ever. So it's their like CI server kind of thing.
My goal, though, since this is a library, like there's no other use for it. We're not doing local dev commits for a production app. We're just updating components in a library, and every push to master should be a NPM release.
Well, then if you're going to do that, you're probably going to want a dev branch.
Of course. I mean, yeah, we would use Git feature branching
Okay.
for dev mode, but whenever I merge to master, I mean, I think since we're starting out small, whenever I merge to master, I just want it to automatically publish to NPM. I don't want to do a lot of maintenance work for the NPM side of this.
That
You
sounds
know?
like a GitHub action. You know, I wrote some GitHub actions once, actually, when I interviewed for GitHub. And they basically just used me to test out their documentation, I think. I don't think they were planning on hiring anyone for the role, because I know someone else that the same thing happened to them.
I've heard like rumors or jokes about that on like Craigslist. I mean,
On Craigslist.
no, I meant Reddit. Like I think these stories are so made up, but they're almost believable. How like startups would have really in-depth interviews with a bunch of devs to complete a feature.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard rumors of like in the design community, like people like doing interviews and then trying to get them to solve some challenging process. And I heard they claim that that's legit, but I don't buy that, because the designers don't want to steal an idea from someone else. They want to come up with their own idea.
But business people who don't respect designers may interview designers to get
Okay, business people, I could see that. I was picturing like a designer interviewing another designer to steal their ideas.
Yeah.
But that doesn't make sense. But yeah, business person being like, well, how would you solve this kind of thing? You know, you're our first designer. We don't know. That's a good tactic, actually.
Yep. Okay. Let's all right. Let's think through what we want to do here. Make some
Is that
steps
you
for
on
this.
Castle Mountain?
Yeah. Automating NPM publish. All right. So the first criteria would be every push to master runs, or no, first it would bump the version, and then it would, what else do we need to do? Publish, right?
Bump the version, rebuild, and publish.
Yeah. Okay, so every push to master.
And tag.
Yeah. Is tagging for GitHub or for NPM?
For GitHub. It's tagging like a specific state of the repo. So like this is the commit that has this tag. So when you're debugging things, or if you ever want to pull, I mean, you can pull from NPM at a specific revision, but if you ever want to pull it down locally to test it out, you can do that. Like imagine you get to a point where you have a 2.0 and a 1.0.
Mm-hmm.
I guess you'd have separate branches for it, but it's just good to have that kind of history.
Is it naive of me to want to automate this since we're starting out so small? I think it can't hurt, but
it might be premature, but it will make it very nice to publish new versions. I guess, how would you know if you're bumping from like major or minor versions though? It's still something you want to do locally, right?
yeah, that's where it gets a little messy. So,
Hey, Brooks.
what?
Brooks Zerker's here. I meant more exclamation points. Sorry, Brooks.
So, okay, so if we bump the version, by default, I would think it's going to be a minor bump. We would want to manually decide that we are making a major bump, right? That wouldn't be something that we want to automate. Major bumps would be a big deal in comparison. But minor bumps, I imagine every push to master automates a minor bump. Now, the tricky part is when we do a major bump, we don't want the automation script to run, right? Because we don't want to always have a major bump with a followed up minor bump, you know?
I don't understand what you mean.
If we create a script where every push to master bumps the version up, a minor version.
We'd probably bump it as a patch, right? You don't want to bump a minor version every time because a minor version can still, it would usually mean like additional functionality and or breaking.
Minor is the middle number, right?
Yeah. But yeah, and patch would be bugs.
Right, so the last number is just bug fixes.
Yeah, you could bump minor each time.
Oh, yeah, that's a great point. So if we're automating it, then we're gonna exclude bugs, which we don't want to do. We want to have a bump for the correct place.
That's what I'm saying. You'd have to tell it what kind of version you're bumping. Is it a major bump, a minor bump, or a patch bump?
Gotcha. What I was suggesting a minute ago is that the automation would always do a minor bump, and then we would manually run a major bump when we needed.
Yeah, major bumps won't be frequent. Minor would be more frequent. But you could also do patch, like bug fixes.
Right.
Patch bumps a lot too.
So that's why I guess these tutorials that we were looking at, they had like a, I don't think this one's it, maybe.
This is probably like so much work just to get it set up, like just for this basic stuff. And all you want to do is write some components.
Right. Give me that action that we were talking about earlier. Configuring NPM.
So Brooks wants to know, he says he's missed everything up till now, but could you use standardized naming system in the pull request to determine which section of the version to bump?
Could you standardize the naming in the pull request? Yeah, that's an interesting idea. So we would have to document like a commit syntax where if you run git commit and then message, so we would say something, you know, like I don't know, so minor, major, maybe brackets.
Or title probably, like maybe in the title or.
So we could say something like major, minor, or patch inside brackets. I've seen people doing this with like Jira.
You could do like make like fake methods. That'd be pretty funny.
So that's an idea. I like that. Like just a quick and easy syntax for commit messages where if there's at the very start of the commit, major, minor, patch, one or the other, it would automatically bump the correct version. And if there wasn't anything, then it wouldn't do an NPM publish.
Yeah, and he says it could be auto-rejected if it didn't follow the naming convention. Okay. I'm sorry, but did you read the docs? I don't think you did, because this does not meet our standards. Yeah, but I like that idea.
So
But you're gonna have to follow that yourself too, you know.
Yeah, I'm
You can't be
thinking.
sneaking in these little commits behind the scene and pushing the master when you want. But that's good. I think that'll also keep you accountable for like following a specific flow. And it'll help for like people if they wanted to try to figure out, I don't know, maybe look at
When's the last time you wrote a Git hook?
a Git hook. I've never written a Git hook.
Git hook pre-commit. I've seen some pretty solid Git hooks.
That wouldn't, I mean, that would tie for every single commit. Can you do a Git hook for like a PR?
Well, like I've seen some pretty solid Git hooks that architects set up, and I was just using them. I didn't, dissect how they worked, but I knew that like so some of this is debatable, right? Like some people would get pissed off by this, but if you did like a Git commit -m, and then if your message didn't contain a JIRA number, like 1234, if it didn't contain a JIRA number and then a message, the commit in the command line rejected your push before it even went up to a server or anything.
Yeah. Yeah, like that works for single commits, but what about like, I mean, if you're making a bunch, you don't want to, I think we want it on the PR level.
Okay, so you don't want to block it at the local level. All right, I'm.
Otherwise, it's going to force them to, each commit is going to have like a thing in there, which seems, I mean, it'd be weird, but. Yeah, I think on the PR level is good because then the PR title, when you merge it into master, that will be in there, and you can have a action to look at every commit or every merge to master, and if it contains that in the title, bump the version and whatnot.
Okay.
Brooks said, if you want to block it on the CI, do we want to block it on the CI/CD level? Which I think.
Yes, but that begs the question: do we want to even set up CI? I was hoping to get away with just a GitHub action.
Well, GitHub action would be our CI. CI is specific to like
like Travis CI or whatever.
The idea of continuous integration, which the GitHub Actions is continuous. It's not delivered, continuous integration, yeah.
Okay. Can you take over the stream for a little bit? I got to get a call that I'm getting. It'll be like 5 minutes.
All right.
You have the code up on GitHub and the NPM module.
Whoa. Yeah, I do. I don't really have anything to share on my screen though. I guess I'll look at some GitHub actions while you're gone. Let me, how do I share my screen? Share screen. View my entire screen. There it is. Let me go to full screen mode here. There's cats. Aren't they adorable? They have actions. So I didn't. I haven't figured out how to pop my chat open while this is using it. So I think we can tie into when a PR is merged into master. Look at that. Only on pull request merge. No way to specify a workflow should be triggered on merge. I thought when I wrote an action once, I saw it have, I wrote like a node thing that listened for events. And so I could listen for like when a PR was open. Was that not GitHub Actions? Was that something else? A webhook, huh? Oops. Blow that up. Let me look at my GitHub real quick. I might have a repo for that. What do I call that? Was an action. I don't know. So people are having it work on pull request. Oh, close. That might not be right though. Oh, that's a good little snippet. Oh. When I say this, I am referring to this. Oh, this thing's pretty cool. Well, I get one of these on my site. What else was there? Man, CI/CD is not my forte. I hate this stuff. Feels great once you've got it set up, but until it's set up, it's just not fun. It's not great. Well, Here's this page is pretty fancy. On any GitHub events. Is there? I guess it's just a continuous integration. Deploy to Kubernetes cluster. Search for merge. Automatically merge pull requests that are ready. What makes it ready? When added, so you add a label to merge it? Why would you do that though? Why wouldn't you just merge it? Oh, so I wonder if I can configure it to use, like I could add a label, auto merge major, or like bump major, bump minor, and then auto merge, and then whenever it merges, it will update, it'll do that bump for you. Well, that's something worth looking into. Tags, merge commits with branch name. Probably don't want to do that. Okay, this sounds like it could be. Automatically builds and merges a PR and deletes the PR branches if they satisfy configurable approval criteria. Oh, you left the chat. Welcome back.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah.
It muted me. I was still on the Hangout, but yeah.
Did you leave the thing and then come back, or what?
No. I turned off my headset, but I don't think that would have done it.
So I'm gonna show you my what I was looking at. I was looking at some GitHub Actions, some pre-made ones. This one had automatically merge pull requests when they are ready, and then I think being ready by adding some kind of label to it. This might be a thing, but this one looks a little more promising.
Oh, so if a PR has the syntax in the front that we talked about, it would auto merge?
Well, oh, this one. So this could, like, if you get a certain number of approvals on the PR, it can automatically merge it. But I was thinking you could add, on the PR, you could add a tag like bump, major, minor, whatever. So it could be a tag on the PR. When the PR gets merged, then you can look at that tag and do the action based on that. But we're still going to have to make a commit to the repo somehow. I wonder if you can do that from a GitHub action. Because you could use something like,
what do you mean? Like if you make local changes, I'm expecting a commit to be the start of all of the automation, but I still would imagine having to make commits when you're changing the components.
well, I mean, once the PR is merged, that's when you want to start the build process, right?
Yeah.
And I wonder if GitHub Actions can do that. If they can do, like, if you can kick off some additional stuff like that, or if it just does things within GitHub. I don't know, but these you can search a marketplace of GitHub Actions. I think it's worthwhile to kind of look at some of these. That probably would be better off stream because I don't know unless you wanted to do it on stream, but there's a lot of them.
So
these might fit the kind of thing that we're looking for.
PR auto merge.
Bump and push git tag on merge.
Ooh, this one looks enticing.
Automatically bump and tag master on merge with the latest Simber formatted version. So how do they decide the Simber version? What type of bump?
Oh,
there you go. Yeah. So how do you fix that?
bumping. The action will parse the new commits since the last tag.
So that's why they got the fancy commit messages in there.
Oh, fix, feature, and what's perf?
A breaking change? I don't know why they call it perf. I don't know if it's supposed to mean performance, but so if no commit contains any message, then the default will happen. Oh, this is part of the Angular commit message conventions.
Oh.
Which there's a lot of. But if you did a merge, if you named your you could just name your PR with the title like this, you know? And then it would do it. You don't have to name each actual commit like that along the way. They do for documentation purposes, I believe, but I wonder if you do multiple, like if you do fix, and then feature, it might be worth it to name each one because then they'll probably just take the highest one anyway.
Yeah, I liked what we were looking at initially with like the brackets and then.
That's what this is. You just have to follow their
syntax, right?
Syntax, but we could make our own. But I mean, if this is exactly what we want to do, you wouldn't have to write the.
Well, how complex is their YAML file? Is this?
This is it. I mean, So you would, oh, runs on Ubuntu. That's cool. So it actually does run up in like a VM or something?
Interesting.
On push branches master, build steps uses actions checkout at master. That's like an action name. And then this is just our internal name. Uses, I think that's what this is. v.1.jh7, what does that mean?
Did you check out the code? Did you run it locally yet?
No.
Do you want to?
Why? You did it. It works. Right?
No, yeah, I know. I was gonna watch you create the NPM, like the local script.
What?
So if you clone the project, first I wanted to see it running on your end and on your machine, and then you mentioned that in package.json we could go ahead and create a script for like npm build would do.
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder if, because this will do that, it'll bump the tag, but it's not going to change the version in the file, is it? So my thought was like writing our own local script that would pull in our package.json, modify the value, and then send it back out. And then you could commit it, push it up, or you could commit it and then run the npm publish. I guess you'd want to push it up too, huh? So
What if we, okay, so I know this is kind of brittle, but what if we wrote our own script, whether it's local or on an action? I don't. Yeah, what if we wrote our own script that just bumped the minor version every time by default, and then we would start there?
Yeah, I think we should save that for next stream, but I'm down to write a GitHub action. Is that what you want to do, you mean?
Yeah, I'm just suggesting that we pare down the acceptance criteria. So if we can get an automated script that automatically bumps the minor version for now, every time a push to master is made, if we can get that automated, then we're in the right direction. It's one step closer to the end goal than where we are today. And then maybe it'll open up some doors to figure out how to actually properly version the the releases.
Yeah.
So I guess we do want to use a GitHub action. Is that what we decided on?
I think it's, I mean, I don't know much about them, but I think it's worth going down and trying to do it that way. It sounds like I would just want to confirm that you can that we can like modify files and push up a commit with a GitHub action, which I assume you can. It'd be nice to find an example of one, and we can just rip that off. This might have something like that in it. Yeah, see, they're doing like commands and stuff, git commands and whatnot. So we should be able to do it.
Okay.
Generating a change log and stuff. Yeah, so this could handle a lot of cool stuff. But save that for another stream, shall we?
We shall.
We shall.
Does the Twitch stream still have any followers live right now?
It says there's 2.
Me and you.
Me and you, and you and me. Slacker King's back, I think. I don't know. My chat doesn't seem to stay updated for some reason, but welcome back, Slacker King. You are the king of slacking.
And that's a wrap.
And that's all we have for tonight. Yeah, next time I think it's a good idea. Do you want to look at the GitHub action next time? Or I guess we can decide next time if we're even in the mood for that or something else. But I think it's a good thing to look at. Good next topic. Get into some of the CI/CD lifestyle, man. When you were gone, I was talking about how much I hate it.
Yeah, I think.
But it feels so good. It's like when you're done with it, I bet it's going to feel great. We're going to be so proud of it. And we're going to publish so many versions because it's so easy.
Can we divide the labor and take different topics? Like I think it would be more enjoyable for viewers.
I can code that one next time. I mean,
what?
And share my screen, but we can't like both be coding on something at the same time. Different stuff, right?
Right, that's what I mean. I would love to commentate while you do the GitHub action.
I'll tell you what, next time. I'll be pony.
All right. That sounds good. I like where we're going with this. We can have a little back and forth sharing of the effort. And in the meantime, I'll work on some content for the actual component library.
If anything, you could work on docs, but I guess it doesn't have a lot of features yet. Just
ooh, yeah, that's a good one. Like integrating documentation, because there's auto-generated docs all over.
Yeah, that's what they had in that example. Is that they had a part of the command was to generate a change log of all the fixes and whatnot based on that stuff. But we could generate, if we have a script that takes all of our readmes and generates a documentation website and then publishes that to like GitHub pages as well, like that's another thing too. But I don't think we're near that level yet because we don't even have a finished component.
We're getting there.
We're worried about publishing new versions more than anything because we're going to publish a lot of versions.
Yeah, once we have some of the like foundational steps established, I imagine that we can just crank out components. Some of the components will be really straightforward, handful of props, some styling, and then we have a card ready to go, polished. And then other components may take a little bit more stream time to get running, like the currency ones. But I could see us doing like 3 or 4 components in one stream session down the road. Don't you agree?
Once everything's set up, I mean, pumping out components seems like the easy part.
Mm-hmm.
There will be a lot of things we'll have to consider, though, like the styling. I mean, you're going to have to come up with a way to legitimately style it and customize the styles and whatnot, right? And then also like building a documentation layer and delivering that. Those are kinds of the things that I'm more interested in, is the open source tasks side of it, rather than building out the components. So I'm happy to take some of those kinds of code challenges
Okay.
when they pop up. But I'm sure there's some of them you can do as well that won't be crazy, tough or anything. Not that this is crazy tough. The GitHub action is just new.
There's some new variables in this workflow that we don't see day to day in like coding for the companies we work at. You definitely don't run into a lot of these tasks, even though they don't sound that complex at face value. I didn't realize there were so many steps with NPM, but at the same time, I'm pretty impressed with how far NPM has come. Like anyone, if they have the patience and some coding experience, can write an NPM module. It's got a low barrier to entry, but you do kind of have to know what you're doing with versioning. And that was something else I ran into. Like, you can't just delete an NPM module. You have to decommission it, and there's some weird governance around it that you don't see in your day-to-day work either.
I thought NPM just deleted it, like the one that someone just randomly deleted and broke the internet.
Well, that's what caused new governance models.
Oh, so they tried to fix it now to make it like deprecation warnings or end of life warnings and stuff, so that doesn't happen again.
Yeah, there's a process now. So if I go into the NPM web interface for my account, I can see the module that we just created, but even in the settings for the module, there's no delete button. There's no like renaming. There's no options to affect the module itself because it assumes that other people have been consuming it. And so the governance model that they enforced after that big story of some guy ripping a module off the web, the governance model is now that you have to decommission the module you published from the command line, and then there's like a 30-day, I don't know if it's exactly 30 days, but there's a wait period where the NPM servers will leave your module up for a period before it actually gets removed from the registry.
Yeah.
So even if you want to rename a module, you have to decommission it and then republish it with a new name in the package JSON. But it makes sense. I mean, it's not too painful to go through the steps.
Nobody knows.
All right, let's wrap this up.
You had enough?
Yep.
Me too. All right. We need to sign off, man. We gotta figure that out. What would Bert and Ernie say?
Bye, buddy.
That's pretty good, but I'm pretty sure we can't use that. We're gonna need to change it up a little bit.
Well, we got to watch some Bert and Ernie episodes and get some material.
We do. Is that Disney Plus? What is that?
That's Sesame Street, man. I don't know what they're not on Disney, but I don't know what they are on.
Disney's gotta own Sesame Street, don't they? Or that's PBS now, huh? Sesame's PBS, and that's why they were worried about getting defunded.
Yeah, PBS.
PBS. Well, does PBS have like?
They have free episodes.
That's what I'm saying. Is it like public domain? Can we use that then? Maybe we could.
I don't think it's public domain, but
yeah, it's probably not. They're not that generous. Well, all right. So maybe Sunday night? Do you want to shoot for Sunday night or what?
Possibly. Yeah. I'm supposed to
be busy.
Yeah, I'm supposed to have plans, but I don't think they'll go through. So I'll text you Sunday morning. How about that?
Okay. So I'm thinking, I mean, what we did this week, my days would be Sunday, Tuesday, and Friday nights. Those are usually when I would say I'm probably going to be free.
For sure Tuesday.
So we don't have to do all 3. We could do 2, like pick 2 of the week, you know, and I think that's a good amount.
I like Tuesdays and Fridays.
Yeah, I usually just start coding Sunday nights to get back in the zone for Monday. But yeah, we don't have to stream on Sunday.
Cool. All right. Well, this was fun.
All right. So long,
TTYL. Bye, Ernie.
How do I get out of here? How do I end this thing?